That it's a great question because I have people ask me all the time, and I I don't have the formula of how it all works.
I'm
to tell you the
asking.
truth. Yeah, I just know that my family always comes first.
Yeah.
And they're the most important thing to me in my life. And I never thought I would be a dad.
Yeah.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that that this would be something I would be doing in life as being a dad. But it's the greatest that's ever happened to me. And when meeting my wife and having our kids, and she's amazing. She helps me out all the time, and she knows that my life is busy. But we always make time to do things, and we're always planning ahead. Just like I plan for work, we plan everything out, like what we're doing, how we're doing it. We're always at Dorney Park or the Lehigh Valley Zoo or whatever it may be, and we always try to make that. I always try to differentiate my time, from work to being at home. And when I'm at home, they get my full undivided attention. It's I'm away from work is over right now, and it's time for the family. And the kids know that, and they also know they love the fact they see my truck and they think Dad's going to work on fires. And my little son, for the longest time, just thought I was a firefighter.
Oh, get out!
Because he always just saw my truck and it had flames on it, and he was like, "Oh, you're a firefighter, Dad." And I was like, "Not really," but yeah. At 3 years old, he just knows Dad goes off and helps people with fire.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right, that is me, Jimmy Honachik, and we are back with another episode of Why Am I Talking? And this is one that I've been looking to for a long time. I've been trying to get you on here. I've been bugging you, and I finally broke you down and got you here. Jeremy Brescia, Business Development Manager at Servpro. You are everywhere all the time, so I cannot thank you enough for finding a little sliver of time to come here.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to do this, and I know we've been trying to get our schedules on the same page, and crazy things keep happening, but glad to be here. Absolutely.
So tell me about your crazy schedule. I mean, you are truly everywhere all the time.
Yeah, it's part of the game. I mean, really, with the business we're in, brand recognition is very important to us. So we sit down every month and we go over the schedule of what we're going to do, where we're going to be, who can be there, who can't be there, and we just try to break it down to every second is fulfilled. And of course, it takes a crazy a turn every now and then, because in our business, we never know what's going to happen next. But yeah, we try to, plan it out in advance. We have so many calendars up on our walls of every different, chamber event.
We have some of your calendars up on our walls too.
And my team does a great job of helping me keep me, in line and track what we're doing, and, reminding me, because I'll look at my calendar and I got like 50 things written on one day, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
So to that point, I mean, what is Servpro? Who are Servpro? What do you guys do?
That's a great question. Servpro, we're always thought of as fire water mitigation company, which we are, and, proud to always help people out in those times of needs, but we do other things as well. We help people with, bio cleanups to mold remediation to, content, clean things like that, all the way to construction. So like we're there from the start to the end. Our tagline is like it never happened. And we stick by that, and we try to help people out as much as possible. But like one of the things people don't know we do, like the construction side of things, is new for us. And it's been challenging, of course, but we've also decided that even if you don't have a loss per se, like in that sense, you could still call us if you're looking to remodel your kitchen or remodel your bathrooms.
Get out.
We've been doing those things on the side as well. We've realized that we could do so much more for people than just narrowing it down to the mitigation side.
Right.
It also helps too, because people have a hard time after we came in to do mitigation to finding a contractor that they trusted, they liked, and people always said, "Oh, why don't you guys do both?"
Yeah.
And we're like, crazy talk, right?
Right.
And then one day the owners were like, why don't we do both?
Yeah.
And it just became one of those things where like, let's give those people the option to use somebody they know, they trust. When you call that number, you're always going to get somebody.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that led to this, and it's just progressing and moving on, great right now. So,
I mean, how smart is that though, right? You've got the expertise to build and do that. And you have the expertise in what I imagine is way harder, which is remediating something and then building it back to the way it was. So to then take it to just organic builds is makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, it was like always right in front of us. And like, no one ever like really like, how would this work? How would this be a process?
Yeah.
And so we got a great team on that side too, on the reconstruction side, that they just took that ball and started going with it. And, at first it was, okay, we're just doing insurance work. We're just doing the follow-up after mitigation gets there. And then people just kept asking like, well, hey, by the way, while you're here doing that, would you also be interested in doing this? Or we have a project coming up. And it was like, okay, that we could help you with that. And then just one thing led to another. It was like a domino effect of that whole process.
That's great. How have you found Servpro? It's not your first career. So how have you found the transition?
It's a lot different. Since I was 18, I was in the car business. So I grew up in that lifestyle and selling cars. I lived in Southern California. That's where I got started off doing it. And, just being in that role was a total different mindset. Coming over to Servpro, it was a change. Then in the car business, you're kind of looking out for yourself. Like you're trying to make your money, trying to do things that coming into Servpro was more about doing things for others and really learning that from our owners and like the generosity that they have to, be out there in the public eye. And it's not about, if you have a job or you have this, but hey, we're here for you. Yeah. If you need something, even if it's, not us, but you're just looking for assistance or help or an ear, for us to listen, we're there for you. And that was something that it took a little bit of, learning to do. I wasn't trained that way. In the car business lifestyle. But it's been great. And I've enjoyed it in the last 4 years have been amazing. And the people I've gotten to work with and the things I've gotten to do, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And
you guys truly are making the world a better place, right? You're coming in when someone has one of their worst moments and bringing them back to the way they were.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, you never want to see us when we pull up
right.
Because it's never a great time.
Welcome to the club, Jeremy.
Yeah. So when we show up, it is, a tragic time in your life. And we want not just to be there for, the cleaning up or the mitigation part of it. We want to be there to help you. We want to, put you on the right track, put you on the right steps. And I can't stress enough how much our owners are a big part of that. I mean, we had a fire not just too long ago. And I remember as we were doing the board up, Dawn was sitting out in the front yard with the lady of the house with her arm around her, going over the process of, what's going to happen next, what you need to do, how what should you, plan on doing. And that's the kind of spirit that they have. They're wanting to be there for people, not just, like I said, to do the work, but to help people out. Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of why we're so successful is we're not just this company that comes in, does the work and leaves. Like we want to be there each step of the way for you to make sure that you come out of this tragic time on a positive note. Yeah. So that's, a huge part of it.
And I can personally say I've sent friends your way and they've, it's the same thing where it's like, how good can a remediation company be? But they've loved, the help that you gave and the expertise that you gave. And what makes Servpro different? What makes you guys special on that note?
I think that's a huge part of it. I think it's the personality of the people that we work with. When we go to hire somebody, we're not just looking for a body. We're looking for somebody who's going to adapt to this team that the Team Davis, I would say, a motto of putting people first. Mm-hmm. And, anybody can go out and just clean up your mess and, take care of it, slap you with a bill and be on the way. We like to take it a step further. We want to become a part of your lives. We want to, focus on what's important for you. And I think that's what helps, especially in this community. And then also the giving back part. We've tried to do so much in the community that we're just not there for your worst time, but that we're there for the happy times as well. Mm-hmm. And we want that to be what Servpro is, not just tragedy, but also happiness at the same time. So that's like a huge part. I think that's what sets us aside. If you look at Servpro and other mitigation companies, is that I hate to say that they're not out there doing the same things we are, because they are, but I feel like we're just putting that extra little bit into it that makes the difference.
Talk about some of the community involvement you do. I mean, it's insane the amount and the volume, and it clearly shows that is a priority for Servpro. So talk about some of the things that you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things we do, especially for the community, working with the chamber is a big one. We appreciate all that they do, and I know that giving back to them is helping bringing the community together in so many different ways that we couldn't do without them.
Yeah,
I know a lot of things we do with the American Cancer Society. One of the big things we do and we're proud of is the Emily's Hug Me Drive.
Yeah, every
year this is something that we look forward to, getting donations of those Hug Me stuffed animals, and we bag them up, we store them at Servpro. Funny story: when we first started, Dawn and Steve let us use their basement of their house to store them. And they didn't think, they were like, okay, yeah, she had said, yeah, we raised like 300 of them the year before. So they thought, okay, yeah, we'll use our basement. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, we got over 1,000 of these Squishmallows and their basement was just full of these things. And so now we've realized we've dedicated space in our warehouse for these because we're receiving so many. We just received a donation for Easter from the Iron Pigs and Peeps. We had 9,700 Squishmallows. Wow. And that we were able to go out to the local hospitals here and hand them out to the kids. And it's just a great thing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah. I love it. It resonates with me as I was a kid that had cancer when I was younger. So this really, something that I've always wanted to do and always wanted to give back. And I love this part of it. I love working with the American Cancer Society with it. And I will shout out Emily and her desire as a kid with cancer to start this whole thing up. And from just saying, hey, let's just give kids some Squishmallows, and how it's grown so much is amazing. And one of the great things I love about Servpro is they let me partake in this and are a part of it. Yeah.
That's incredible. My wife is a pediatric oncology nurse. Okay. And so I know that community is such a special community.
Oh, yeah.
It's really taking the best people, and it's nice for you to be able to, help support the kids and the children and just make it better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So, I heard sunny California. How did you make the move from the sunshine and the nice weather out here to Pennsylvania? And today of all days is disgusting out there.
I grew up in this area, but my dad lives in Anaheim. Okay. So he lives in Southern California, works for Air Products out there. Wow. And so when it was time for me to go to college, I, packed my bags and I was University of Long Beach was the destination. And so I went to school out there. And of course, as a kid of 18 years old, you just fall in love with the beautiful weather, the beaches, just the whole atmosphere. It's so different than here. And so lived out there, that's when I started in selling cars, and, just never thought I was going to leave. And during the time I was out there, the cost of living was just a little bit more than I thought. We went through a little bit of recession back in 2008, around that time. And I decided, all right, let me move back to Pennsylvania for a while and, kind of like regroup and, I'll probably move back here. And I came back and, things were great. And, just one thing led to another. I ended up meeting, my wife and having two beautiful kids and, getting the job at, Servpro eventually. And, life just takes a change. And now I'm, happy here in the Valley. I love it. It's a great place for my kids to grow up, the same place I grew up. And, being part of the community and everything we do is just, fantastic. But I do still miss those, always sunny. Yes. I felt like, I always tease people like, Anaheim controls the weather because of Disneyland, that it never rains. It's, 85 and sunny every day, And, I do think on days like this, I'm like, beautiful days. I miss them.
Yep. How do you mentioned your family, your two beautiful kids. How do you find balancing all of the things you do and your daytime job and the family? Like how do you make it all work?
That it's a great question, because people ask me all the time, and I don't have the formula of how it all works.
I'm asking.
I just know that, my family always comes first. Yeah. And they're the most important thing to me in my life. And I never thought I would be a dad. Yeah. I never thought in my wildest dreams that this would be something I would be doing in life, as being a dad, but it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And, when meeting my wife and having our kids, and she's amazing. She helps me out all the time, and she knows that my life is busy.
Mm-hmm.
But we always make time to do things, and we're always planning ahead. Just like I plan for work, we plan everything out, like what we're doing, how we're doing it. We're always at, Dorney Park or the Lehigh Valley Zoo or whatever it may be. And, we always try to make that, I always try to differentiate, my time, from work to being at home. And when I'm at home, they get my full undivided attention. It's, I'm away from, work is over right now and it's time for the family. And the kids know that. And they also know, they love the fact they see my truck and they think, Dad's going to work on fires. And my little son, for the longest time, just thought I was a firefighter.
Oh, get out.
Because he always just saw my truck and it had flames on it. And he was like, "Oh, you're a firefighter, Dad?" And I was like, "Not really." But at 3 years old, he did, he just knows Dad goes off and helps people with fires.
Yeah.
And he puts two and two together. So, but yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, I wish I could tell people exactly what the perfect balance of work and family life, formula is, but it's one of those things where you just, it works and you just go at it and keep doing everything the right way, I guess.
That truck is really cool. We were leaving the chamber today and I wanted to ask you which one was yours because it was very obvious. But that is a very cool truck. You talked a little bit about the Lehigh Valley. What about the Lehigh Valley? Do you love? Clearly you love it. Clearly it works for you and your family. Like what is it that makes it work?
I honestly, I can say, when I was young, I was always negative about living here.
Mm-hmm.
When you're young, you think to yourself, it's always better somewhere else.
Right.
You think to yourself, I got gotta find better. And I did. I went out there and I traveled a lot and I lived in different places. And like I said, lived in Southern California and things like that. And, you see all those things, but it's not the place that makes, it great. It's the people. And something about the people here in the Lehigh Valley is what I love. I love how people come together. They work together. I love the thousands of festivals we have, where people are out having a good time. Now, everybody has their bad days and, that's everywhere. But at the root of it, it's the heart of the people that here I feel like is better than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. I feel like we have a great community. No matter what city you're in, everywhere has its problems. But at the end of the day, I feel like everybody's here to do the same thing. Raise your family, work hard and, have a good time doing it. I think you get that all here in the Lehigh Valley. I think it's better than anywhere else. Truthfully.
You like you said, you have great people here in the Valley. You being a part of them is very important. How do you go about establishing relationships? Because you are in a relationship business, right? Mm-hmm. Your networking is really important to you and your role. How do you make it so that you're building the right kind and strong relationships?
I think the key is, most of all is listening. People have needs. People have, what they're looking for. I think one of our biggest things that we say all the time is, what keeps you up at night? And for our business, that's huge. Because if you own a property or you own a business or you run some, apartments or things that, what's keeping you up at night? What makes you worry? We want to be that company that's there for you in those times of needs. We want to take that worry away from you. I think one of our biggest networking tools is that key of listening to what their problems are. I'm not just here to sell you something. I think people miss that in the networking business. I feel like when I go to a lot of networking events, everybody's trying to sell me on this or sell me on that. And they're not really listening to what my needs are. And I think we do that especially better than anybody else, is where we're more of listening. We want to listen to you. We're not here to sell you anything. Again, we're just a service that we offer if you ever need us. So tell me, what do you need? What may you need down the road? I think that helps really big in networking because then people feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
They know you're not here to throw something down, throw something down their throat. You're here to listen to them and you're here to find out their problems. And that's a huge part of, I think, my networking is now that I'm able to, sit back and, have a drink with somebody and say, hey, listen, tell me about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get that as much anymore. With just everybody wanting to sell.
Yeah.
That, if people take it and they respect that. And I think it just opens up the door for us a lot more in certain situations, and especially in the networking.
It took me, I can remember when I realized that was the approach because I went to one of my first chamber events and I'm there and I'm going, hey, do you need insurance? Hey, do you need insurance? And you could watch the room just walk away from me and spread away. And later at that event, you're hearing about like the relationships people have built at the chamber and how deep the relationships are, and being involved, giving back is only a good thing. And it started to click, and I was like, oh, right. You should be giving more than you're receiving, and it'll come over time, but it's those relationships.
Yeah. I always say people know Servpro. They know who we are. I mean, they don't need me to sit there and dial up everything we do every time I see them. They know.
Yeah.
And it's more or less of like, hey, how are you doing today? How's it going? How's the business working? How's everything? They want to talk about themselves, but they don't ever get the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And we want to be there to listen to them. We want to have them open up to us. And it just draws people in more. And I've seen that. And like you said, I've watched people, how they do it. And I think to myself, okay, well, I see how that person reacted. That didn't work well. So let's not do that. So I've seen those things, and I've I wouldn't say mastered it, but I've learned, valuable lessons watching other people, how to, work your networking better by being more of a listener than just being aggressively selling at somebody.
Yeah. Why am I talking? I shouldn't be talking. I should be listening. Sales, getting the sale. How do you think about that in your role? Because it's much different than I think a lot of sales positions. How do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, for us, like as far as getting the sales is different. We try to build relationships over the year. Getting the sale is something that happens over time. You may never need us. You may need us right away. Ours is about building relationships. So we go out and we visit people. We've come to this office and we drop off, different swag and things that turn.
Can we talk about the ducks real quick?
Yeah.
My staff loves the rubber ducks. They're a huge hit. And when I was saying, hey, we need to get some swag, unanimously everyone said ducks. So great one with that. Yeah.
Muck the Duck is one of our favorites. And it was a character that Servpro used for a while. Then they got away from it. And we found it and we thought to ourselves, well, let's run with this.
Yeah.
And we went out and got a full costume to have him at, carnivals and things like that. We had bigger ducks at first. And then we realized with the smaller ducks, people love putting them on their Jeeps. Right. People love having them. And so we ran with this, and it's been so successful. But it's another tool we use. So when somebody has a problem or someone has an issue, they say, oh yeah, that company with the ducks.
Right.
We've had people say that before, and it's like, yes, that's it. The company with the ducks. And we realized that, I could talk to 1 million people about Servpro and never hear from them. And then all of a sudden, 6 months, 8 months down the road, one of them calls up saying, hey, listen, I had a fire in my house and the stove and this and that, and I have an issue, and I need you guys to come out and take care of it. Hey, we're there for you.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that we work on. It's building trust that people know that they can count on us. No matter what the time of day is, no matter when it is. I just had talked to somebody yesterday, and on Christmas morning they had an issue, and it was a bank, and they had I think it was a water pipe or something break, and on Christmas Day we went out there, took care of it for them. And we've had these problems before, and they know that no matter what time of day, and it's always at 3 a.m. It's never in the middle of the afternoon, but they know they can call on us, and that's how I look at our sales. I look at our sales as I don't care how many things come in. It's the relationships we're building. If we can build good relationships with people, then when the time comes and they need us, they're going to make that phone call.
Yeah.
And so different from when I grew up. You know, when you walk into the car dealership, if you left without a car, you were getting yelled at. So it was in the moment sales. As now you're looking at the longevity of the relationship. And we have tons of them where we have clients that have never used us, but yet we still go play golf. We'll still go to events together. We'll still do this. And they've recommended people to us. Yeah. And it's one of those things where we appreciate that friendship more than anything else. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to build.
Yep. And referral partners are probably important. And I'm thinking of insurance agents.
Yes.
I would never use my position. But what would you say, what makes insurance agents awesome, Jeremy?
What makes insurance agents awesome is you guys are at the front of the line. When your clients need something, they trust you, before anything else. Before they even call us, a lot of times, they're on the phone with their insurance agent because, number one, they want to know if they're covered.
Right.
They're scared. They've never had anything happen. They just know they pay this bill every month, but they don't know, they don't have any idea. They just know they have to have insurance. It's a thing. So with insurance agents, we appreciate the fact that they trust us. So we always like to give back. We always try to do whatever we can to help out insurance agents. We've done a lot of different activities. We always teach CE classes to help out with credits. We've done different events or different activities with insurance, bringing agents out. And, it's just one of those things where we know that you have a hard time sometimes with, clients. And I'm sure you get phone calls all the time with people upset about this, or, hey, how come I'm not covered about this? Or what about this? And we want to make sure that when you call us to go solve that problem, that there's no more problem. That you're not going to get a phone call 2 days later going, hey, this company you recommended tore up my house and I got stuff all over the place. And we don't want that. We want to keep those relationships. And we love you guys. I mean, you guys are great. And like I said, we would never want to do anything to jeopardize that relationship we have. But yeah, we appreciate, you guys, we appreciate all of our insurance agents. There's so many of them, here in the Lehigh Valley that, work hard every day to try to keep everybody, taken care of.
I meant that as a joke, but I really appreciated that answer. That was really good. Something I love about you is, you're good at building these relationships. You're very personable. But when we have meetings, on the chamber board or whatever, you're always quick to bring up ways to help people.
Yes.
And ways to improve, whether it is insurance or whether it's, just protecting their properties so that they don't have to call you. Where does that, I want to say quest for knowledge, but also for teaching, where does that come from?
It really comes from our owners. They really, it's funny because you would think, in a mitigation business, we wouldn't want to, tell people the secrets of, solving your problems, call us, we'll take care of it. But no, the problem is we've been to those situations where people didn't know that they didn't have insurance for this, or they didn't know that this was something that could happen, or they didn't know what to do. They were just lost. And in this day and age, especially younger folks that are coming up, buying homes, they're buying their insurance like from a 1-800 number, offline or things like that. They don't have any personable, agent like they would come in and talk to that they used to be a thing all the time.
Right.
So they're lost. They have a loss. They don't know what to do. They call us and they're just standing there and they're like, oh, what happens next? So we're really big on trying to teach people, and I try to bring it up as much as I can, especially like chamber events, things like that.
Yeah.
Talk to your people. Let them know what's happening in the world. Let them know, like, renter's insurance. Like I brought that up today. A lot of people don't have renter's insurance. They don't realize it could be free.
Yeah.
It's not that much.
When you bundle it up, it's not much at all.
And nobody thinks about that. They think, well, I'm never going to have a fire. I'm never going to, I live in this apartment on the 4th floor. Where am I going to get water damage, or things that, and then all of a sudden the neighbor next door, does something and it affects you, and you never know. Yeah. And so I always try to teach people. I always try to put the warnings out there. Hey, listen, don't, take it from me. Someone who's seen the worst that could happen to you, right. Take advantage of it now. Talk to an agent, go in, find out who your agent is, make an appointment, ask them. They're willing to help you out. They're willing to go through your policy. Maybe you need something more. Maybe you need to up it a little bit, or maybe you don't even need some things and you can put it somewhere else. People don't realize what's on their policy. Go, oh yeah, insurance. There you go. And, I stress a lot, and it's like, oh, you're taking money away from yourself because you're right. But at the same time, no, I'd rather have them be knowledgeable and I'd rather have them be set up for success than them standing there when we show up lost and in tears and, not knowing what to do. And then we're sitting there going, yeah, listen, we can do this, but we can't do this because you're not covered. And if, it's going to cost you this much money to build everything back, and they don't have it. And, they look, and it's just one of those things. I hate that part of the job.
Sure.
So we try to help people out as much as we can to not let that happen. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of why I'm very adamant about teaching and helping, and whatever people need, we can be there to help you out. And I'm always willing to sit down with somebody and say, listen, we can go over and talk about this, over a cup of coffee, because I'd rather you be more knowledgeable than the day come, and you'd be like, wow, I should have listened to what that guy was saying,
Do you have a favorite experience at Servpro? I feel like you've done everything from, building back someone's home to probably being on the field at the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. I would imagine you've been there. You run the gamut. What are some of your favorite memories or experiences?
Every one of them that we hand the keys back over to people in their homes when it's finished, and the joy and that they have, and seeing that it's finally done. All the tragedy that happened, it's finally over. they can get back to their way of life that it was. Those are always great moments. I would say that, I can't really pinpoint one of them where I would say that it's better than the other because they're always great.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said before, one of the greatest moments, one of the greatest things we do is giving those Squishmallows out to kids during the holidays. I can never keep it where I'm not crying when I do it because it's such a great moment. And I just remember, it always takes me back to when I was a kid and, going through that time and, thinking about, you never know, as a kid, you don't know what's going on really. You're there, you're going through it. Your parents are talking to the doctors are talking to your parents. You're kind of left out of it. You're just sitting there and you're worried about what's going to happen. And to help them out and be there and something Servpro has, been huge, a part to help let me be a part of it is great. I'd say that's probably probably the greatest thing that I could say we do at Servpro is that giving back part.
That's awesome. That's very cool. We are running out of time, which I can't even believe. But this has been so great. We are sponsored in season 3 by Zcraft. They are a cafe. They make the best coffee. They make incredible food. You go there, you sip on your coffee, but sometimes sip happens.
Yeah.
And we like to ask, our guests, what is a time where sip happened to you?
So many embarrassing moments in my life, I could think, I know one in particular. When you first brought it up, I thought of something right away. I remember being, an enthusiastic car salesman at the time, and I was always just running around doing things. And one of the most embarrassing moments is I ripped my pants, and I fell and slipped, and I ripped my pants. And my boss was like, "Well, you gotta keep going." And I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" So I remember I took my jacket and I wrapped it around like my waist, and I looked so goofy and dumb.
Yeah.
And I just played it off like it wasn't happening. Like I didn't. Oh yeah, my jacket's not wrapped around. It was a dress jacket too, so like it made no sense to have it wrapped around my waist. And the people just kept looking, and I just kept ignoring.
Yeah.
They were looking at it, and I just went through the whole sale, and they ended up buying the car. I think they just felt bad for me. Yeah. I think they felt bad for me. They're like, this kid's, what's wrong with him? So I buy this car for him. And I remember the whole thing happened, and the joke was like the next day in the office, all the guys were wearing their jackets around their waist, and they're like, "Oh, well, you sold a car, you got to do it that way forever now, right?" And it was, probably one of my most embarrassing moments because it just was something that when you're young, you're self-conscious about yourself, right. And that was one of those moments like everybody's laughing, and I was like, I gotta just suck it up and do it, and it was like, all right, it's. So
my next big commercial pitch meeting, I'm gonna rip my pants.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that could be it. The key to success, ripping your pants.
All right, Jeremy. Before we wrap this up, is there anything we didn't hit that we should have hit? Anything you want to talk about?
No, like I said, I'm always, here to help people out. I want to stress, like I did before, we just talked about, as far as, making sure you have the right coverage and making sure you know what your policy says and being prepared. It's never hurts to take a look at it. You never know what life's going to bring you. In our industry, I can tell you every day, people call us and I can't believe this happened. Yeah. And so again, I always want to just stress to everybody out there, hey, take a look at your policy. If you don't have the right insurance, get the right insurance. If you're a renter, don't think to yourself something never could happen. Look into the renter's insurance. It's not expensive at all. And you could bundle it, like you said, with your car insurance, things like that, and it could be pretty much nothing. So I can't stress that enough, and I always take a moment to say those things.
Well, I didn't expect to get an insurance pitch out of that, so you can come on anytime you want, Jerry.
There you go.
This really was great. You really are an incredible person doing incredible things for the Lehigh Valley. And so
thank you
for coming on here, Jeremy. Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great. I'm glad we were able to get the time and figure it all out together.
I hammered you enough.
So yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy.
You got it. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.